guys, welcome to my little paintbrush. My name is Miss Cami and today we're going to the ocean. We're going to paint a beautiful sunset with a moon happening, all the colors in the sky, and a shark fin to celebrate Shark Week. Okay, so I'm glad you joined me. I hope you're ready to just relax and have a fun evening or afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you, painting along. Don't forget, you can pause this video. You can also rewind it. So good news for you, you don't have to keep up with me. Make sure you don't rush through the process and make any changes you want. It does not hurt my feelings. When you switch it up, stay true to who you are. You'll love your painting better if you do. Okay, let's get started. I have a 3/4 inch flat. I'm going to swish it around in some clean water. My palette is loaded today with all the fun things. We're going to go right into yellow first. I'm going to take a little bit of white with me to make sure that I get the right color, okay? And I'm going to begin right here on this horizon line that I've put in, and then I'm going to swoop up just like this, okay? Now there's a lot of blending going on with this piece, a lot happening in a short amount of time, and the reason that we're going to go super speedy through this is because my blending window with acrylic paints is very small because you have to blend wet into wet. So if I am going really fast to you, just keep in mind I'm trying to not lose that window, okay? So I'm going to go yellow here. Now if you're wrapping your edges, do that as you go. We like to wrap if we're painting on a stretched canvas. Go around the edge. Now we're going to dive into some of this really fun coral. It's so bright. I like to just pop it right there on my canvas and then grab my white and start to blend. Notice I did not wash my brush in between my yellow and my coral color. I don't need to do that. They are friends. They get along just fine. Okay, now I don't want to lose my yellow. That happens a lot for me. I started to lose it a bit right here. Okay, I don't want to lose that. So be careful as you paint along in here to not let that bright, fun coral kind of take over your painting. You want to keep that yellow in there. Okay, now we're going to go right in to our pinks. And I'm going to wash my brush for this just so that it stays pink and doesn't get more in the orange color because I have that yellow on my brush. Okay, same thing. I just kind of dive right in with my pinks, and then I can just grab chunks of white and start to blend that line a little bit. Again, careful, you don't want to lose any color, and it's easy to do when you're blending. Oh, got a chunk of paint there. It's easy to start to lose some of our colors as we do this. So if you start to go, oh my gosh, that beautiful, beautiful coral that I love so much is starting to disappear on me, we can go back and blend some more of that in. Right now we're going to focus. I'm making sure I've got white on my brush just to let those streaks happen. Now I do want to wash out for just a minute, and I want to make sure that my coral isn't lost right here. So I'm going to just dip my brush in some coral and blend that in right there, just to say, hey, come back. We love you too. Just like that, okay? I'm leaving any streaks that happen. I'm letting them happen. I'm not trying to cover that up. Okay, I'm going to make some purple with some phthalo blue and some of this pink. Okay, just a real rough mix here. Get that in there. You can just blend from pink and start putting blue on your brush, but I really want the purple to come through, so I'm going to mix it a little bit. Okay, and then we're just going to start to blend this purple in like that, and I'm going to really start to play in my whites here. Now to make sure I don't have any stripy effect right there, I'm going to dip the corner of my brush into my pink so I can play with those there. Now my pink has already started to dry, so you can see I'm not getting a good blend right there. So what I'm going to have to do is wet that again. I'm going to have to wash out that purple. And what you want to do is just go into that pink again and start to see, just blend this line. Okay. Just keep working it back and forth. Really use your white when you need to help those colors come through. And we'll start to blend into that purple a little bit better. You see that start to happen there. We start to blend. This is kind of a tricky sky because we're using so many colors, okay? So it can be a little bit overwhelming. Now I can start to play in my purple, knowing that my pink isn't lost here. Okay? Just keeping that swoop. Now we're going to go into our blue before our purple dries too much and really blend that line in right there. Okay, so now we're getting that nice sky, and then this one just goes all the way to the edge. A little bit tricky of a sky to get in. I'll show you a few things we can do to really clean up or bring back any colors. Right now, just add some nice streaks into your blue. You can even just do a corner of your brush and streak those through just like that. You know, that is that moon coming in to focus here. Will be up there in our blue sky. Okay, so there's one thing that I want to work on here, and that's this little area where my pink and purple dried and I couldn't get a very good blend. So I'm going to wash my brush out. Typically I wouldn't worry too much about it. However, I know that I don't have a palm tree going there. I don't have a moon going right there. So I really want that area to have a good coverage and a good blend. And so I'll just take a minute to add some water to my brush, loosen that up a little bit, and get a little bit better of a blend going right there. And if I need to, I can put some coral on my brush too, you know, if I'm again concerned about losing any of that. With this particular sky, you just need to accept that you might be working in it for just a minute before it becomes what you're really wanting it to be. And that is okay when we're creating. We need to just be patient with the process. Nothing is going to happen immediately. Nothing's going to happen overnight. We need to be patient with the process. Okay, little purple there. I'm working on a mixed media paper, so you can see it's kind of starting to warp on me. If you're working on a mixed media as well, you know that there's a challenge there that you're going to have to deal with, and you can just kind of pull it tight as it dries. But for now, we are going to leave our sky alone. It looks beautiful. It's going to have so many fun things happening. I'm going to rinse my brush, and now I'm going to do my water, and it's going to go in a very similar pattern. We're going to reflect from the yellow down to the blue, except we're going to stay horizontal the whole time. So I've got a clean brush and I'm gonna work in my yellows first, okay? We're gonna butt right up against that line. And what I like to do to kind of separate it for me is I put white on the edge of my brush and I just carry that white line all the way across. So I just know, and it's kind of like that glow on the horizon line. And I just know that that's where my horizon line is, where my water meets my sky. And you can make it as prominent as you want. Okay, so our water is smaller than our sky, so we've got to work in less space. So we're gonna start to blend into coral already. And water is a little bit different and you want to avoid stripes. So again, work quickly so that you can get a good blend in and work in and out of your colors. Go pink, and I'm using a generous amount of white every time I load my brush because this is very pastel in nature kind of painting, is super light. If you have parts of your water that just, or parts of your brush stroke that just stay lighter than others, or they streak off, really allow that to happen. Don't stop that from happening. Let those streaks play a part in your painting, because especially in the water, you've got shadow and light happening constantly. And so just let it be. So we went into our purples a little bit. Okay, and now before we go to blue, I'm going to wash my brush because I just want to make sure there is no yellow, because blue and yellow will make green, and I don't want to play with green right now in my painting. That will come later when we do our palm trees. See, the blue comes on pretty strong, and so I'm going to come up to this white and purple and really try to blend that in so that I don't have that stripe effect. Okay, and I can kind of rinse out, have that damp brush in there and pull that purple in like so. Okay, let's go ahead and pull our paper tight again, okay? And you might need to do this too if you're not working on a canvas. Just stop a minute and pull it again so that you can have a nice flat surface to work on. Okay, might need to go up to the, I've got a clip up here. So I'll just pull all my edges as tight as I can, okay, so that I have that to work with. And then I'll just make sure in here that my pinks are not forgotten. And just like the sky, we might have to work in these colors again with chunks of white to help that blending process and to also give that rippling effect on our water. I just think these are just so beautiful. Like the color palette that's happening here is just so fun and so gorgeous. Gonna rinse out and go to some more coral and blend that line in. And it's okay if your sky is darker in nature than your water. You know, that's okay. Doesn't have to be exact, okay? But look at that beautiful reflection that we have happening. So fun, so gorgeous. Let's rinse out our flat really well and set it aside. And let's go ahead and put in our background kind of island that's out beyond the horizon where our palm trees are going to be. And to do that, I'm going to grab a detail brush, and this is just going to work with my detail to shape everything in. I might even fill some things in with my detail. I don't suggest that you always do that. You don't want to do fill in big spaces with a detail brush, but in this case, it's going to go a little bit faster to not switch brushes. Just remember you're using a detail and to be nice to it and gentle with it. So I'm going to loosen up some black paint. Now, if you feel more comfortable chalking any of this in before painting it, you can grab a piece of chalk and do that. And I'll show you, I'll probably chalk my shark fin in later. But for this step, I'm not going to chalk anything in. And what I'm going to do is paint in a little, it's going to start a little beyond the center, okay? And then it's going to climb up to the edge of my canvas, just like that. And like I said, typically I would switch a brush to fill this in, but we're here, and I'm just going to do it real quick with my detail, just really gentle, not too rough with my detail brush. And I want to try and get up against that horizon line, okay, and give a nice clean line to that. As clean as you can anyway. Now if your sky is still slightly damp, it just depends on how wet it is. If it's just a little damp, this isn't going to hurt it because your black is just going to cover it all up. If it's still quite a bit wet, then I would suggest you wait till it's dry, fan it off with a plate. You can even use a blow dryer on a cool setting if you want. Okay. I want to rest my palm in my water, but I don't know if it's dry yet. It's a little sticky, but I need that support when I paint. I need to be able to rest on my canvas. I like this to go nice and straight at the end, going off into a tip. I like that. Okay, so now we are going to put our palm trees in. And again, you can chalk these in if you're nervous about just going for it. I'm just gonna go for it though. You can even pencil it in. I'm gonna do a long one. These are all very bendy. And this one is going to come from this point, and it's going to bend down towards my little island here. Once you get your main line in, you can start to thicken it, but I like to start with just a very simple thin line and build upon it versus going really big and then having a problem because I have this really thick line that doesn't match the rest of my tree or my painting. So got that one in, and I'm going to do 3 because odds are better. Okay, this one's going to have a really generous bend to it, but it's going to come down and get pretty close up to its friend right here. Just like that. And then again, I can go through, put a little more pressure on my brush to thicken that out. Okay, just like that. And now the last one's going to be going in the opposite direction. It's not as close to the other two. It's a little spaced out. And that's important that you don't create any kind of pattern as you're painting, okay? So, you know, putting everything in the same, bending the same direction, the same height, the same width, that sort of thing. You want to be different. You want to allow each one to be different. Okay, now we're going to do our fronds. Always say that wrong. Frond? Anyway, I hate that word. I'm going to call them branches and leaves, okay? So we're going to do our palm branches here. And I just want you to start to bend, okay? Just want you to give a little bend here to your brush and build upon that. Okay? Notice that our palm tree is bending, and so that's why we want to start these in a bending stroke, okay? But then as you get up here, you're going to have some that kind of start to go up and then the other direction, okay? So we want to kind of play with that idea that they're bending and then they start to go, oh, other direction, okay? And we'll do this one. This one's more upright. Once you figure out palm trees, it's just like that's all you're going to want to paint because they're just that fun. Okay, so now you have your main branches in. Now you can take your brush and we're going to start to flick. Okay, I'm just going to flick, flick, flick all the way down. Now no two palm trees are the same and no two palm trees in your painting will be the same. Okay, every time you do this, you're going to get a different result, as you should, and it's totally okay. Just remember you're starting at that branch and you're bending those leaves downward, okay? Now on branches like this, you're going to do the same thing, trying to angle. You can totally flip your canvas around. But then we got some that are gonna show up on the other side as well. So you're kind of making more of a feather going on that one because the wind is blowing it in that fun direction. We got this one. Same thing if you want to put the indication that there's another set of leaves on the other side. See how it just starts to come together as you do it. So at first it just looks a little funky, but then as you play with it, you start to get a palm tree. Now over here I'm gonna add a few on the other side of that branch just to fill it in. Okay, so that's palm trees, guys. Simple and super fun. So let's work on that one. Keep your paint loose with some water. We're gonna come up here and work on this one, same thing. And I'm just gonna pull these down. This might be a step in the painting that you think, holy cow, she's going way too fast. Pause it. Practice the palm trees, the branches, the leaves on a piece of paper or a plate, and then come back and join me. This is muscle memory for me at this point. It just happens for me because I've been doing palm trees for a long time, and so I have that advantage. But if you're feeling overwhelmed by the speed of this, just take a minute. Okay, so remember to start at the base of your branch and then move away from it in a curving stroke. and then decide for yourself where the wind would take some of these other branches, other leaves, I mean. So some will have kind of a feathered, the look of a feather, where others will just be bending downward. And you can make that decision because you are the artist, which is just a beautiful, freeing thing, isn't it? To be able to say, this is what I want, and I don't have to change that for anybody. Okay, so we've got 2 palm trees all the way in. Let's work on this last one. Pulling down. Again, it's a quick brush stroke. The less you think about it, the more natural your painting is going to look. So just try your best to allow yourself some freedom here and not think about it too much. One thing I love about painting nature is this concept that it just kind of always looks okay. So much can be forgiven because in nature everything is sort of this imperfectly perfect. You know, everything is different and everything has its own personality. And so when we're painting it, you know, if we get a really crazy looking branch or a weird leaf or anything like that, we can refer back to times that maybe we were taking a walk in nature and came across something that looks similar to it. And so you can't really mess it up. And the less you think about it, the more natural it's going to look. Okay, we have some beautiful full palm trees. The only thing I think I'll do is add right there, curve that in a little bit. These look fantastic. Now we get to have some fun with those branches and those palm leaves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush out, and we're going to add a couple of layers. We're going to add a layer of some green, and then we're going to sort of a, you know, not too dark, not too light green, and then we're going to go lighter. Okay, these are called values, and we're going to build our values of our palm tree, but as we build them, we don't want to take away from the first value. So as we put this second layer on, we don't want to take away from the black that's on there. We just want to build on that. Okay, so I have my phthalo green here, and I'm going to add a touch of brown to it just to tone it down a little bit. Phthalo green will pull pretty turquoisey in general. It goes more in the turquoise family, and so I don't want turquoise trees. I might even pull a little bit of yellow in there to pull more in the lime green family. Okay, so you can play between the browns and the yellows until you get a color that you're happy with, and then I'm going to pull a touch of white. Not too much, just enough to brighten it so that it's not as dark as the, you can already see that turquoisey color that it starts to pull first. I don't want to go too dark. I still want to be able to, I want it to contrast the black that's on the tree. Okay, so once I have the color that I like, I'm going to start to put in a layer of this color. And you're going to see your palm trees, they just start to come to life. See, and we're just, like I said, I'm not covering my first value. I'm building on it. Okay, I'm saying, okay, there's the very underneath shadowy ones, and I'm going to build on that. Okay, I'm not going to take away from what's already there. I'm going to build. So we're just building, building, building on these. Okay, and we're going to build on each. Don't worry too much about the center of your palm tree if it looks really ridiculous to you and you're like, oh, I can't deal with that. We're going to put some coconuts in there to kind of take away from the stress that we might feel of getting that center of our tree perfect. So if you're feeling all those feels about your center of your tree, just keep that in mind. We're going to add to it. Right now we're just building our values here. Value building is so incredibly cool. I love doing it. I can't even express how much I love doing it. And the value building in acrylic paint goes from dark to light. It's different with watercolor. We'll go light to dark. But when you're value building with acrylics, you start from dark and you move into light. And as you're building these values, it'll just blow you away what happens, how you just, and maybe you already see it and can already relate to what I'm saying, but you just start to get this incredible creation just develops on your canvas or surface as you're going. Now, if your palm trees are still super wet with black paint, I would encourage you to let them dry. But if they're just a little damp, it's not going to be a huge deal. Okay, so there's our first value. Now I'm going to lighten my green even more to play into that next value. Now, once again, I don't want to take away from the first two values that I built. Okay, I don't want to take that away. I'm just adding. So I'm very gently now putting just a few little bits in. See, I'm not going through as much as I did with my darker green, right? I'm just adding little bits, and sometimes it'll offload a little heavier in areas, but don't worry about that. Just let the natural weight of your brush and pressure that you're putting on it kind of take shape a little bit. These branches that are kind of going in different directions, difficult for me to reach without flipping my canvas around. So if you need to flip it, flip it. Okay. See, do you see what I mean? We're just creating life suddenly in our trees. And it's just, I can't get enough of it. It is so fun for me to do this. And I hope that, you know, for you right now, it might be a little stressful, but if you practice, these things can really become enjoyable for you too. So I encourage you to, you know, maybe you just pick a day and say, this is my palm tree day, and I'm going to practice my palm trees and just fall in love with creating them. Okay, rinse that out. I'm going to grab my Filbert. This is my favorite brush. I use it. The flat is probably my all-time favorite, but this one is great. If you don't have a Filbert though, just grab a smaller flat. Works just as well. Okay, going to get some white over to my brown and maybe even a touch of black. Okay, and I'm going to start to make sort of this deep brown color so that I can build some values on my trees. And this goes pretty quick. We're just gonna kind of tap our tree with this brown. And I'm skipping little areas, you know, not going too heavy in some parts. Leave some of the black behind. Again, you don't want to cover any value. And then when I get down to the base, I kind of create the base of my palm tree, just like that, so that you can see it is in the ground there. Okay, so it's starting to make big difference here. Same thing on this one. Okay, and just kind of do a curved base of your palm all the way down, and we'll add a lighter value of this too. So this is just our first one. You see I just kind of round it out like that. Now this one is kind of on that slant a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to take this brown and I'm going to brush it in places. Okay, again, I'm not taking away from the black that's on there. And I'm going to go around the trunk of my trees because I want to indicate some shadow there. And this is really how you build value in acrylic paint. You let the first step, the first dark value step, be the shadow in everything else, okay? You can have a little hill maybe right there. Okay, now I'm going to add just a bit of white to my brush without washing it, just a little bit of white, and I'm gonna kind of dab in my trees here. Okay, so I'm brightening them up a little bit. The brown might still be a little wet. I might still get an offload of some of that brown in there, but that's totally fine. Okay, just waking up our trees a little bit, and then we can do the same thing in our little island here. Bits of white here and there. Okay, look at that. We've created a fantastic little island. Now I'm going to take the bottom of my biggest brush and dip it in my black paint, and I'm going to dab in my coconuts. So I'm just going to do 3 per tree. Again, I like 3s, I like odd. Okay, they can be as big as you want, they can touch, they don't have to touch, they can be lower, they can be falling out of the tree. These are yours to do whatever you want with, but we are, like I said, creating sort of a cheat here of not having to worry about, does our palm branches all meet the right way in the center of that tree? Well, now we've got our coconuts there, so we don't have to worry too much about that. And this will probably help you feel a lot better with your palms. Okay, so get those shaped in and then let them dry, and we'll add some value to that. While I have my big flat with me and it's nice and damp, I'm going to dip the edge in this light brown mixture that I've made here, and I'm going to take that and look, I'm going to, again, it's just damp, I'm going to start to create a nice shadow where my little island is. And I'm going to use this brown to do it, and I love how this plays into the painting because it's not too harsh of a shadow. It's very subtle, but I can still get that effect that I want. I'm going to sort of wipe that off. Didn't want it to go that far. Just with a clean brush, and you can do that too. But I'm just gonna keep going with my shadow, just wiping it into my water. And this is always kind of a scary thing to do because we worked so hard on our water, right? I don't know what that is, a little clump of paint. We worked so hard on our water, and so it can be scary to just dive in there and say, yep, I'm gonna brush brown paint right through my water. Just trust the process, step back, see what you've created, and be amazed at what you've done, okay? We are just coming along here. I'm gonna rinse that flat out. I'm gonna go back to my filbert, which is a great option for a moon. If you don't have the filbert, maybe you have a really small scuffy bristle brush, like something like this, that's just really stiff bristles. Or maybe you have a paintbrush that's just super dried out. All good options. Okay, you kind of want that stiff, dry brush. You can use a flat for this. If you're using a flat, just use the corner of it, okay? So I'm gonna load pretty lightly, and right where my blue starts to meet my purple, I'm going to shape in a sort of half circle there, just like that. So it's kind of just coming in, and then I'm gonna start to swirl with my brush here. See, I'm just gonna scuffle and swirl about. You can use just a corner, you can use the whole thing. And I'm just gonna make sure that that line is strong, and then I'm just going to build off of it, okay? I find that people struggle with moons because they don't like how out of control they feel with it. Because when you're doing a moon, you just kind of have to let things happen, and that can be kind of intimidating for people. Just kind of let it fade into the purple, okay? You're gonna have some darker values coming in, right? Darker values with some lighter ones. So you're just gonna keep playing around with this. You want to just kind of fade it into the purple, not have any harsh line indicating that it's ended. Just a nice fade and a nice indicated line where your moon goes. And mess with it and step back and mess with it some more and step back some more. And let all the craziness happen on your canvas that you might be like, ugh, I don't love it. I've learned with the moon, you have to stand back. If you're up close to it the whole time, it doesn't look the way you want it to. So step back if you have to kind of get the full effect from your moon. Okay, here we go. You can even drag it. Oh, that didn't really curve for me. You can even drag it a little more, just to have that sort of ending that's unexpected. Nice and light. It's much easier to do this sort of moon on a canvas. If you're working on paper like I am, it's a little trickier to get that effect. You don't have the scuffing that you get when you're on a canvas. I'm gonna flip, but it's still doable, by the way. I'm gonna flip my brush around and do a few stars in my sky. Remember, this part is warm, sun is setting. Up here we've got our night sky coming into play. So we are going to add just a few clusters of stars. I'm not going to go too crazy with them, just a few here and there throughout the blue part of my sky. You don't want to go down into the warmth. Okay, friends, we've got to work on this shark fin real quick, and then we'll do our coconuts and we're done. So, I mean, it's just incredible how quick this goes in. I'm going to grab a piece of chalk, and so I'll show you how you can use your chalk if you want to do that. Now, this shark fin is a big part of our painting. It tells a lot of our story here, and so it takes a good amount of space in our painting. It's got a little bit of a bite or something taken out of it here. So you shape this however you want, though. It is your shark fin, it's your painting. Just think curve and then straighten it out a little bit. And flat up against the water. So I'm going to go ahead and use my filbert to fill in my shark just with black. You can even, if you want, add a little touch of white so it's not as harsh of a black, but you get that charcoal color, that's fine too. And then we're just going to fill it in. Again, it's a little intimidating to just come at your canvas with this black paint. And the shark fin, you can totally eliminate it altogether. You can put a little sailboat in here if you're not a fan of Shark Week and all that. We originally created this painting as kind of a Shark Week tribute, but you know what? You don't have to do that. As you're filling this in, if you chalked it in first, your chalk is going to dry out your paint really quickly. It'll absorb it, so you're going to have to use your water more than normal to compensate for that. If you have some additional residue that's left on your canvas, don't worry about that. When your painting is nice and dry, you can wipe it off. Okay, before I move on, I'm going to grab some white on my brush. I'm going to brush in some light at the top of my shark fin. Again, we're indicating that we've got this bright sky casting light down. So I'm just going to blend that in. Okay. And then I'm going to put a good amount of white on my brush and just kind of at the top of it give an even harsher line of white. Okay. And then we'll follow down right here, just kind of blend it in, focusing on the top of our fin there, and coming down, and go to the toe of your brush and just kind of feather that down. Okay, get that nice fin in there. Blend it where you feel like it's not blended well. Just really light brush strokes. Gorgeous. Okay. Rinsing out our brush again. And let's switch to our detail, and we're going to make a little bit of a ripple as the shark is pushing through the water. So I'm going to grab my detail brush, I'm going to get it in some white paint, And I'm going to come around the front of my fin first, and I'm going to do my little ripples, okay? They just bending in. This one goes around the front of the shark. Okay, put that in. Oh, I got some purple on my brush, that's fine. Okay, get a nice chunky line here, and then we can go through and add sort of our faded look to it. Now we're going to do another one. It's going to come around here, and it's going to follow the same sort of rippled pattern right off of our canvas. Okay, and then we have one that's in the background here. Let's start up here, and we're going to curve in and in, and then straight up against our shark. Okay, so pretty easy. We have that movement happening. Now we're just going to get our filbert or a small flat, get it wet with some clean water, put an edge of our brush in white, and then we're going to follow the line with that edge, and we'll have more of a faded sort of edge happening. It'll start to fade. Oh, I got some black in my brush from my shark. So wash that out really good. Sometimes that happens. We have to have a checkpoint on how clean our brush really is. But we're just going to go like that on each little ripple, and it's just going to fade in there and look less like a really harsh line. Okay, and then I'm just going to use some water on my brush, and I'm going to start to pull away, just kind of brush away from it, adding this little bit of blending and making it a little bit like the water's got some movement there. So just with a damp brush, pull that wet, really wet, thinned out paint, pull it through, kind of make that water move. Beautiful. All right, let's rinse out. Let's go up to our palm trees. Let's load with some of that brown and then an edge of white. So I've loaded with brown, got an edge of white on my brush. I'm going to come up to these and just give a little bit of a circular stroke in there. See, and we just kind of shape those. Say, okay, this one's in the background, this one's in the foreground. If it gets too white, you can go through it again like that and just say, listen, it's too bright. Okay, and now our palm, our coconuts are a little bit more present. Okay, you guys, I can't believe we're just about finished. If you want to, you can take your detail brush and you can just add little bits of white into your leaves if you want, just to brighten them. This step is really easy to get out of control, so do it very gently. The first time I did this, I just completely had a white out situation on my palm trees. They just turned to like glowing palms. So I just am careful to suggest, just be careful not to have that same effect. But there we go. This incredible scene is finished. I'm going to sign my name because I'm just proud of myself. I hope you are too. We should always sign. We should always be proud of the work that we do and the effort we've put into each one of our pieces. I would love to see yours. Share it with us on social media. Tag us at My Little Paintbrush. If you enjoyed this painting, give me a thumbs up, join me again, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We drop new content all the time. Thanks for coming along, guys. See you next time.